Robert has been somewhat prepared for the ranting and raving that it's 7 a.m. or almost 7 a.m. in my time zone, and I'm already frothing mad. So we have an issue. This is the maze, the labyrinth of hell that I currently find myself in, where we have an issue in Delta Kernel. That issue is a deadlock, which I'm not sure what this person's name is. I want to say Dang. We'll say Dang. Identified, great. Fixed, also great. Merged, beautiful. However, since 0.19, let me go ahead and share my screen. I don't think there's anything sensitive on it, but since 0.19, there's been a ton of other APIs that have changed. And so to the reproduction case that I've got for this deadlock, I've got to basically bring us up to date with kernel main, because the fix is on main. It's not on a, I suppose I could pull a branch off of 0.19 and try to bully them into a 0.19 one. So that's one side of this. And then little Robbie Pack over there in Delta RS, little Robbie Pack has been changing all of the DataFusion APIs. And so the reproduction case I've got for this issue, also, if I want to run it on Delta RS main, I've got to update the reproduction case and figure out what Robbie has been doing over there in Delta RS.
I mean, at least
like, I'm just trying to fix a bug here. And I'm like, it's like whack-a-mole with these API changes. This is like the least stable I've ever felt in our dependency chain. If I want to get extra, I'm not even talking about the DataFusion 52 changes, which are coming in, hopefully, real soon now. But yeah, we got to get to stability. Like what I was saying in chat is once we hit 0.31, which is going to include some of the work the really good work. So don't get me wrong. The really good work that you've been doing. Ethan Tyler, who's worked on the DataFusion 52 upgrade. I'm really looking forward to that. Once we take these changes in, I am not going to allow breaking changes for at least a month. I will be ornery, a big pain in the ass. No more breaking changes for at least a month, because we're seeing like the stuff we released in December finally is getting a little bit more testing, and so they're like shaking the bug tree out, and so we're getting these bugs, which is great, and then trying to fix them. Everything's now changed behind the scenes, which is making it very, very difficult to actually like reproduce, validate, fix bugs and deploy fixes, and it is so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean there are a couple of upsides, hopefully. So at least in the latest PRs, I did try to get better at covering things with tests. So I think our test coverage is increasing.
That's good, dude.
Our test coverage is increasing, and my main concern, because I do agree, right? This amount of churn that we're seeing right now is not great.
It's
to say the least. We are unfortunately in this hybrid situation where some code path support some features and other code path don't support features, right? And this is mainly because we still have those two table providers, which is also the main DataFusion API, right? I mean, at least we're down from 3 to 2, so one implementation is already gone, but this needs clear.
The fact that there are 3 is so funny to me.
I agree. I mean, one, we talked about the one on Delta table, right? That should have never been there because it doesn't have a schema, or maybe not. So you shouldn't have a panic in an API that always gets called.
Yeah.
Potential panic, right? So, but you could use it in a way where you would hit that.
Bad object.
So that's good. And then the other existing one, it's still an optimize and merge, and unfortunately those are the ones I'm most afraid of. But the work on this actually uncovered a lot of stuff where we need consistency. So you merge this fix for the delete operation, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, what we're doing is we're again moving to logical planning more and more because I don't know. Just to give you one example in the write operation right now, right? So we do writing during planning, kind of. So there's this data when we overwrite data in a file that matches a predicate, right? We extract this data, or
do you wanna bring me to some code?
Oh, sure.
To support what you're talking about. Where you want me to go?
Yeah, let me.
I'll bring up the stuff that, like, the stuff that I was doing. I have a feeling I know where you're going. The stuff that I was doing, I was like, this is probably something that's going to have to get pulled out, and be more, I want to say generic, but like more reused and like commonly used. This is the code that Robert is referring to, where the issue that we had was a error bubbling up from the DataFusion layer, which is basically, I'm not smart enough to work on DataFusion, but DataFusion throws an error if your expression could be simplified, but it isn't, which I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. But we basically needed to do this, which is to simplify the expression because a complex predicate coming in was not appropriately simple or simplified for DataFusion, which I feel like is probably everywhere that we've got where we have predicates coming in. We probably have to do this now, right?
Well, to be honest, I didn't see that error. That also surprises me. I mean,
it's hilarious.
To simplify, but it's still valid to evaluate, right? And you're like, well, I don't want it simple.
No.
I want to do the work.
You better be simple. Let me pull it up. Arrowcast not using express simplifier. So this is our issue. And then this is the explanation that came out. So this is your jam much more than it is my jam.
Okay, but this is a good example. If you
there's a consistency that's got to happen.
Yeah,
for a lot of our operations.
So if you go
they're all like their own little fiefdoms.
Yeah, and this, I mean, you mentioned the documentation for DataFusion, right? So the main thing I want to actually document is how to manage sessions. Either let us create it, or there's some things you need to do with the session, but that we're updating the session at runtime all over the place doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
Are you telling me you're going to write some documentation?
I have. I actually just need to make the APIs fit the docs.
Like, the documentation doesn't reflect reality. However, I'm working on fixing that.
Yeah. But if you want to go to the PRs, I just opened a draft PR. That's also not gonna pass. If you just look at the changes and just the last.
Okay, so you want me to review a PR, or we're looking at a PR where
just look at the last commit. It's stacked on top the other big work.
You people and you're stacking. So this logical planning and write ops?
Yes.
I thought there was a separate PR that already had the logical planning. Or is that
some
different?
More logical planning?
Oh,
we replaced
more.
Okay. Let's see if we can. There is one thing that we need to do, because the SQL parser sometimes defaults to parsing everything as N64, for instance. So if we run through the expressions, even if you provide the schema, it doesn't care if it's an N32. And then kernel, which doesn't do any optimization, complains. So this is one of the things that goes into the same vein, rewriting our predicates so that we can cast. Luckily, there is a simple cast to function, but this just casts literals. So we're not running into those issues.
I think this is. I don't want to distract for what we're doing here. You have written so many different expression translations in the last 6 to 12 months, to where I think it might be good just to put like a counter in here, a print that says I'm rewriting an expression, and then we could run through some common operations and see how many times the same expressions are getting translated and rewritten. Because I feel like it's at least 4 to 5 would be my guess. But anyways,
I mean,
so many variants of this exact code you've written, whereas we take it's this kind of expression. No. But now it's this kind of expression because of one reason or the other. Anyways,
I mean, this is why I set up all of this tracing stuff, because we need to get a handle on some of this. So but if we go further down, actually the utils, maybe it's in there. Let's see.
The utils.
No, the file you were just at. Maybe it's in there. We had logical.
Just heading into utils.
Yeah, I think this is where the expressions are. So essentially, we now have this resolve.
Excellent.
This resolve function on the expression, and I replaced all the instances where we parse the expression with kind of going through this resolve.
Excellent. No, that's good. I think that's really good, because I knew when I was working on this yesterday that this is going to have to be refactored somewhere and like made common.
Yeah.
This expression, whose expression is this?
This is our expression.
Okay. Where's simplify? Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, here we. Yeah. Again, I'm learning a bunch of CDC stuff.
How come this has to be cloned?
Because all the rewriting needs to own it.
So then why don't you just take that reference out? Make it take a reference to...
Yeah, that it consumes itself. Yeah, I can.
Because then the caller, the caller should be like when we call resolve, the caller should be receiving that result and using it again. Like result
what I
should,
originally wanted to
the
do,
caller expression should be vaporized.
Yeah. So what I originally wanted to do is, but you're right. I'll make that consuming.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my favorite thing to do, which is, where's the suggest? Maybe it's because my screen is so. No, can I no longer suggest a change? Oh, maybe it's because it's weird. I can't suggest changes anymore?
Maybe because it's in draft.
I wouldn't think so, but yeah, maybe so. All right, I'll just make it out.
Yeah. This is.
Hey, so random question, since I've got a lot of things floating around right now. If we were to release main right now, and I'm not saying we did, but when we release main, we solve the deletion vectors and column mapping support problem, don't we?
Yes, but.
Oh no! This is like the number one.
So this is exactly the case, right? We support this via the new table provider. All our scans always went through a table provider, and the new table provider supports these features. All operations that are integrated with the new table provider then also support these features. Actually, all of this replace where stuff like this also needs this, because when we do an update operation, right, and we scan files, which data to keep and which not to keep, we also need this kind of, damn it, this write df. That's not something I wanted to include here, actually.
Well, we must use it.
But here, this is a good example of how I want to manage sessions in the future better, right? So if we get a data frame is associated with a session, and we definitely have to use the same session to evaluate stuff, right? So having data frames in our APIs is a good thing, but then we'll just break them up into a logical plan, reuse the session, update all of the plans logically, and then use that same session to execute. Because I think that's an absolute must, that kind of two data sets that we're merging and doing stuff with, or evaluating expressions on mostly, is agreed.
Is your thinking? I mean, this is on operations, or like that. Isn't this like Delta Ops? Is what this is on?
Well, it's a data frame, a Delta table impl.
This is the Delta table implementation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. So the reason I'm thinking of the Spark APIs, where you take in a data frame and then you write it with the format Delta. This is kind of the inverse of that, where you have a Delta and then you write the data frame into it.
But the insert into API could look similar, right? So we could have an insert into and then you give it a a data frame, and then we write this data into the delta table. Well, which is kind of what we do here. Yes. maybe that should be called insert into.
I like that. Clearer, not cleaner.
Oh, by the way, you asked about how to convert to DataFusion. Well, no, actually, you asked about kernel. But there is this to DataFusion extension trait.
Yeah, I've seen that in a couple of spots.
Yeah.
To DF schema ref. Interesting. Is that a new thing that you've added?
No, that's 2DF schema is something that DataFusion provides as a trait.
Then this. Oh, we're here. Resolve is already pulling a DF schema.
Yes.
Cuckoo. Robert, you've come a long way. I really appreciate this. You're guarding DataFusion functionality with the DataFusion feature a year ago, January 2025. Well, Robbie Pack was not. It was just assuming it's DataFusion all the time, which I really appreciate. So it's the little things. Don't worry. I noticed. Yeah. I noticed. Okay. I've noticed that you do this a little bit more than others. These trait extensions, you import these as underscore. I mean, I don't think it matters, but I'm curious if there's a reason behind it, or if it's just like what your IDE is auto suggesting, or because we've got this. I mean,
I've been defaulting to this, and it's mostly around legibility. I don't know if it makes a difference that a symbol is not kind of actually imported, right? I don't expect it to make a huge difference. It's just I then see, okay, nobody plans on implementing this thing.
But we need some of the trait visible.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just, to be honest, a little drive-by change. So this is I learned how we write CDC data, which is interesting. I didn't know this before, but it actually lends itself really well to the logical planning, because we essentially pull in the different logical frames for, and this is an example.
Yeah, I wrote it.
That I changed here. So previously, when we do a replace where, right? So we may be in a situation where we override partitions and then we're fine. But we may also be in a situation where we are rewriting the contents of certain files, and then we need to scan that entire file, but we only update the records that match the predicate, and the other records kind of just need to stay around, if that makes any sense, right? So the unmatched records in any file, we need to write those out again because we're rewriting the file. And previously, we did this in a separate internal kind of approach, in that we wrote a data frame that
Please keep talking. I'm just making a note.
So previously what we did is we read the entire table. We filtered on where we match. And then we wrote, and we did this logical, and then we wrote out the data that we need to kind of rescue, that we just need to retain in a separate step though. And then we would pass kind of the other piece of it with the data we need to rewrite to the outer function, which would then do another write operation. So now realizing that actually we need both the matched and the unmatched data, just with different kind of change types. We can combine stuff like this into a single logical plan. And then the writer, and this is something that I wanted to get feedback on once writing some comments on this PR. But essentially, this now just relies on the fact that we distribute the batches and only send some data to the CDF one with the right change type. Right, so we just have an empty change type for the data that we just want to wire through.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then hopefully yeah.
So you said this is drive-by. Did you make this as a separate commit?
No, I mean, now that you wanted to see it, I just squashed everything and pushed it. But it's based on the other PR, right? So I just put this up so that you can look at it.
Dude, you've got so many good changes, but what you you do is you're like, all right, here's 10,000 lines. Y'all work on that. I'm gonna start another 10,000 line PR that's gonna depend on that. And you're like, okay, while I was working on those 20,000 lines, I also noticed these other changes. So here's another couple thousand lines of changes that is now dependent on those previous 2,000. So whenever y'all get around to it, if you could merge just all of that, that'd be great.
I unapproved the other PR.
Ian's like, great, whatever this is, ship it.
I can revert this thing. What this essentially just does is we had this concat batches in there, and
No, this is a good change, but it's now smashed to everything else that's here, and so it just like
I can carve out the expression stuff, actually, the resolve expression.
If you think this will get, this pull request that I'm looking at right now is going to get merged in the next 48 hours, then let's do it. Then don't worry about it. But if you're like, this change is going to require lots of consideration, it's probably going to take a number of days for everybody to understand the brilliance of Robert Pack, then I would like this change to come. It would be nice to take this change out because this is a really good improvement. I actually really like this a lot because that concat batches stuff is crap.
Yeah, I'll take those out because it's very easy to fillet those. If the other one, Ion approved the other one. I'll let Ethan come online. He left some comments that I addressed. But once that's merged, it's very straightforward to just make 2 small PRs, one with this change and one with the expression resolve stuff, that can land independently and makes subsequent stuff much easier to review. So let me say, getting this change through is more likely if we carve out the stuff, because then, yeah, it's not quite as daunting.
Yes. So this caught my eye because there's a create session here. And then how the heck is this working?
So all this does is manage the object stores right now, in that it registers the root object store from the log store, and the runtime environment uses a dash map thingy that's kind of internal mutability. Thread save, what have you. What we're not doing, and this is something
this is a DataFusion session, isn't it?
Yes.
And so we're off the log store. I didn't realize log store had a, where's my code? Source log store. I didn't realize we had like a dash map thing floating around here. Was that update?
No, we don't. DataFusion does. DataFusion's runtime environment. So we get we use the object store or root object store API to get, well, the root object store and then we make sure it's registered on the runtime environment. And this is also why exactly the documentation you described is important, because if somebody really wants to build their own session, right, they can, but they need to register our planners. Right now we have all of these metric nodes and stuff like that. So the scans don't require any planners, but when you do update, delete, what have you, you need to register our planners.
So this is not something I'm asking you to do in this pull request, but when I see this function does not do what you think it should do, like when I see update DataFusion session taking the first argument as a log store, I assume this is going on that the session gets shoved onto the log store, which isn't actually what's happening. I was trying to figure out like what the hell does the object store, like whatever it's called, have to do with this, and it's we're actually just grabbing the object store URL, and then this thing, like I don't know what we should call this, but it's not that, because we're not actually updating the session, right? Or well, we're updating the session, but not with anything log store related. So it's actually like,
no, we were like in line 726 there, we get like the root object store from the log store.
It's when I look at any anything that looks like it's a mutability API, like update, write, blah blah blah, the first argument is almost always the thing that's being updated. It's the subject of the sentence.
That's true. That's true.
And so, I mean, it could be just a question of just reordering these.
Yeah,
might make it clearer, but like that sort of a thing, like that's why I was confused of like what is actually being updated here, because it looks to me from the call site like we're updating the log store with this session, which is actually not what's happening.
Yeah, it's the other way around. But the general question, how do we have decent APIs for managing DataFusion sessions, is top of my mind. And you saw this thing that accidentally got committed, like the insert into write def stuff, right? So this is where I'm most concerned. This is where I expect most errors to appear, where, okay, this node can be planned, yada, yada, yada. On the other hand, since we are looking more and more into performance, right? So if we don't reuse sessions properly, then all the DataFusion internal caching stuff and none of this kind of gives us any benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so this is why we need a clear storyline. This is how you do sessions. Yeah, to be honest, I sliced and diced that code a little bit because it's very long and does many good things, but yeah, and because it was hard for me to follow, I tried to be more generous with this is the error I was just chasing down. But maybe I can tell you, maybe you have an idea. I probably just need to do some more predicate rewriting, because that seems to be kind of the go-to thing now.
I'll overwrite with predicate, that's fine.
What's happening here, and I told you before how I included the rescued data in rewrite scenarios into that one stream, right? But when we write this, let's say we write a replace where operation, then we validate that the data coming in matches the predicate that we're overwriting with, right? So that's actually something that can be configured. So I looked into the Databricks documentation as well. So the behavior is the same. You can disable it, but by default, it does exactly that. However, the data we are rescuing from the files specifically does not conform to the predicate, right? Because that's the very reason why we are not overwriting it, right? But we just need to write it out to another file. So I somehow need to update the predicate in a way. Well, no, actually, we just need to run validation on the substream. And for this, I think I can include just a logical note that uses our data validation exec stream thingy to validate more. But that would put also a, well, we already need custom planners, so yeah. Oh yeah, this is also beautiful. This is something we need to talk about.
Not Robert in here. You're like, this is incredible. Whoever wrote this code, they're brilliant. Wow. They're
Well, no,
right? Beautifully done.
It's even more even. But in order to make things manageable, right? So what does this do? So when we update stuff, we read from various files. We do a bunch of gymnastics to identify those files. So essentially, we run a group by over the entire table. Anyway, now we need to create the remove actions. And right now, I actually separated that process. So if we have cached log replay for a predicate, then this is IO-wise for free, right? But we cannot afford to, well, I was hoping somebody would see that little.
That's actually, so no joke, that's how I remember how to tail logs on a modern Linux system, because fucking systemd everything. But if you remember FU, then you can say, you know, whatever my unit name is. And so that's how I remember how to, because if you want to know about logs, just remember the core ethos of systemd is FU. Yes. And then you are able to find the logs that you used to be able to just tail. Anyhow.
Nice. If you go back up again, though, the main challenge here is we run through file views, right? So right now, file views will always do a fresh log replay. Because
there's log replay, but then there's iterating. I thought the engine data that is under that file views already exists, and so we're just iterating through it again.
Well, we removed that recently, but I think we need to do this. We need to have something scoped, cached here, but maybe scoped to a predicate. Or we need to revive it. But if you look at the eager snapshot right now, I think it just forwards to the snapshot, and we don't.
So I think there's a little bit of a how do I dismiss?
Well, let me say one more. Just one quick thing.
Yeah, please.
So there is another way to do this, which is kind of going deep into our scans and keeping track as we do the replay of the remove actions there, right? But this would have been so invasive and put so much logic that's kind of external into that stream that I just wanted to get the migration done, get a baseline by tracing everything, and then start chipping away at kind of the duplicate work we do. But I have this strong sense we need to get away from this. It's here like this, and there are yes deletion vectors, there are no, here's some column yes, there's some no. We need to have one consistent answer, and then once we're clean, then I think we're set up really well with your profiling and my tracing, that we can identify the bottlenecks and then take a bit more of a systematic approach in getting things fast again. And then I actually think we can be faster than we were before, even with the runtime gymnastics we need to do. Yeah, but that's why I went for like a separate scan to get the remove actions we need.
So I guess you and I have talked about eager snapshot before. I want to get rid of eager snapshot. If you haven't been following along with this exciting series, eager snapshot basically pre-caches a bunch of data that it shouldn't, and caching is another word for leaking memory, in my opinion. But if everything gets pushed down into the Delta kernel scan and iteration, blah, 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 then there is opportunity for caching. But in my opinion, that's where it should be happening, is in the engine. Anything that is, north of the engine, so above, right? There should be no caching whatsoever. We should always be coming down to the engine to get data if we need it. And if we have to do a replay of something, then that's going to show up like a sore thumb in profiling and say, here's where we need to fix something. And it's an engine level problem. Because when we do these changes, when we make these accommodations above engine, what's ending up happening and causing us a lot of grief is we get a split brain between what the engine thinks is the world and what we think is the world. We being Delta RS, right? And so I want to get away from that, which is why Steven's change to kill eager snapshot is interesting to me. But I fully believe that there's performance optimizations that should be done. I just don't think we should do any of them related to kernel or related to log replay or visiting data from the snapshot above kernel or above the engine, I should say. Kernel, whatever, who cares? But in the engine, that's where I think we should be making those optimizations once we see them.
And I do actually have laying around. It's not a breaking change for APIs at that point. So but I have like an engine where we use the DataFusion execution plans. Where we use the DataFusion execution plans within the engine implementation for Parquet reads and JSON reads. Yeah. So, and why am I mentioning this? Because this will also then help us at least sort of all the Parquet footer caching, yada 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 yada, that lives on the DataFusion session also propagates through there. So we have some optimizations on that level. And then I do agree, kind of getting the yeah.
This is schema. Okay, so this is just refactoring that code out of.
Yeah, I mean, this was part of what are we even doing? Are we doing schema evolution? Are we doing, I don't know, what are we even doing? I try to understand it a bit more and oh.
Okay.
The DataFusion native kernel engine. That's actually what I was just talking about.
I know. I'm highlighting. Okay, we're gonna skip this one because it's more than 6 months old. But let's last 2 weeks, 6 pull requests. Okay, so here, 17 files changed. plus 1,000. We're getting away from net Robert 0. 4 files changed. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, that's pretty respectable. Let's come back a couple. Now this is where the fun really gets going.
If you look at the closed ones, I think the closed ones now are more interesting.
16 files, 6 files, 13 files, 26 files. Ooh. So which of these is now redundant? Because I think you said one of these is now redundant. So they don't get that bad. It's just this last one. So does this last one incorporate? This last one is plus 2,200. Does this last one close out some of these other pull requests you have open? Or are these all related?
Yeah. Oh, I think some of them... Okay, can we see the list again? So, right with the plan, that's one that needs to be refined and sliced and diced.
Mm-hmm.
More logical ops, I think, might be outdated. Use new provider and logical planning and fight files. This I kind of, I can't refactor.
I'm giving you a little bit of grief on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to keep up as a reviewer with where is Robert.
I can close some of those. Not all of them, but some of them I can close.
And let's see what Ethan's been up to.
Yeah, we've been talking on the other PR.
So many conflicts. Womp womp. I thought you were going to take those, or is he taking those conflicts up?
Well, I can't take care of it. I'll ask him what he wants to do.
Okay, let's go over here. Okay. What I need to see real quick is if I can... Okay, so that's correct. I have this deadlock issue reproduction before. Let's see if I can build it with just a cherry pick of that fix. Oh, isn't there a new object store? Speaking of dependencies, like fucking everything up. Yeah, we got 13.1. So that's fun. Did they fix the Rustdoc issue? Let's see. Because 13.0 didn't build, the docs didn't build properly. Oh, somehow it must be in the queue. Let's look at builds. Huh. Okay, so we have a 13.1, which was pushed yesterday, but Docs RS doesn't have it yet. I don't know that I've seen that much of a lag before in Docs RS.
Usually,
like within the hour is what I've seen. Let's see what the changelog looks like. Oh, well. Fixed DocsRS build failure. Except we don't seem to have pushed anything. So 13.0 is what we're looking for. But 13.0 DataFusion 52 doesn't depend on it, right? Or does it?
I don't know, but that would be a constraint for us.
That would. Where's my object store here? 12.4. Okay, so DataFusion 52 depends on 0.12. So we can take in 52. It doesn't require a new arrow, which I appreciate Andrew for doing that. So help me. Why does this not build? Source protocol checkpoint. Please just build. So
by the way, I mean,
do a 0.30. Yeah, good.
Well, one thing, and that's a little bit by sides, but locally, I'm down to 15 warnings. I think 6 of those are some deprecated thing in an external crate in tests, right? So when the time comes, I'll just ignore those. There is some we still need to address, but coming from hundreds and hundreds of them, 16 is exciting. 15.
16 is very exciting, or 15, whatever the number is, less than dozens. Okay, so I'm going to make you help me with this. Trait table provider is not implemented for Delta table. This is on 194.
It is not. So
here's what I've got.
This is the one that went away.
I have a Delta table.
Is table provider await. Yeah, and that's fallible. Yeah, there's this arc in the beginning that you don't need. It gives you an arc. It's kind of type erased at that point by design. So this gives you an arc in table provider. It doesn't tell you what our table provider is or isn't. Okay, moment of truth. Did we fix this issue? It looks like we fixed it. I don't know why there's a panic or why the assertion is failing. So I'll have to talk with the person that created that. Actually, let me make sure that we start from a fresh state. Still failing. But it doesn't deadlock. So that means I might see if Nick will release a 0.19.1 with just this one, this guy, this fixed. Yeah, you sent me that, but this is. So one thing I mentioned earlier that I have the DataFusion native engine, and interestingly enough, it works in my kind of experimental setup, but it only works because I have a dedicated CPU runtime, and I did kind of the I/O CPU kind of runtime split. When we use it in our crate in some tests where we don't have that, well, we call block on the driving kind of runtime, which Tokyo doesn't like. Yeah, I can't imagine why. Yeah. So what's this guy's name? Ruzel? The other person who I was chatting with about this, Ruzel, I guess is their name. This fix it's not great. Because block on or block in place. Yes, Ruzel. Let me pull over the the failure. Okay, well, yeah. This is on a multi-threaded runtime. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, that moves that's kind of stay on the same thread, but then Tokyo will move all other work off that thread and make it kind of a blocking thread, right? Because I think spawn blocking will go to like a pool of spawning of blocking threads. It has. So the point that I was making to Robert earlier. And this is something I've seen some other folks that work on kernel say, like, I'm sure if these were problems, we would be seeing them.
from our internal to Databricks meeting customers, and this pull request was Rizzle demonstrating in early December, so before 0.19 was released, demonstrating that we have a problem. So this deadlock reproduction is actually the same issue that was reported by Detoxified Plant, aka Kamal, with 0.30. So we shipped 0.30, and I'm very grateful that Kamal produced the reproduction case. It's actually hidden in here. It's a really big reproduction case, which I quite appreciate. That demonstrates the deadlock with Delta RS. Roselle also demonstrates the deadlock with kernel natively, which is fantastic. But like the issue is being reported. Like, and meanwhile, the kernel team's like, la 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 la. Let's cut a release and then change all our APIs. So fortunately, I'm not sure what their actual name is, but Dengsh 12 fixed this, and fortunately, this is a change that I actually cherry picked straight onto 0.19, and so I think we can actually cut a 0.19.1 safely to fix this issue. I just have to convince some folks that we should do that, and then we would be able to, if we wanted to, we would be able to cherry pick that onto 0.30.1 in Delta RS and cut a 0.30.2 that at the very least fixes this sort of gnarly disappointing deadlock that Delta RS now has.
Yeah. But I'm really...
all contingent on a 0.19.1. Or Tyler forks the default engine, which we all know is coming.
I mean, there's one thing we also want to get rid of. So having our own engine, I think, makes sense because we can normalize on Tokyo. I did realize though that. Yeah. It's not quite as straightforward, and this is where there's we do need some dedicated runtime management, right? So we do still need to spawn our worker runtime on a different thread, and deal with Tokyo stuff.
I don't know if I'm supposed to just change the number here, but I'm just going to do it. Where's my version? Version.workspace. So we might have to go and call that a day because I know Carly has another thing that she's got to do.
Yes.
Robert, I'm very excited for your work. I think we're going to have a good week. There's lots of stuff in queue. I'm looking forward to DataFusion 52, new object store, hopefully a new kernel with this deadlock fix. We already have a number of bug fixes that landed over the weekend. So I'm looking forward to a 0.30.2 release and then a 0.31 release that follows shortly thereafter. So
same here.
Let's have a good week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks, Steve, for dropping by in the chat. And I'll see you all on Slack.